So Kyle Klinsky, the prince of democratic socialism, he did this story on Ayn Rand taking a PPP loan from the government, which I thought was incredibly hilarious, given who Ayn Rand was. Now, I know she's not an ANCAP, and Kyle calls her an ANCAP. She was an objectivist. But, you know, it's still, the same thing still applies because she and ANCAPs are always talking about getting rid of government in general, getting rid of the welfare state. Come to find out, the Ayn Rand Institute applied for a PPP loan. Now, you know what? I'm just going to let them talk. This is funny as hell.
This next story is almost too easy. I almost didn't cover it in the show because it's just too, I don't have anything to say about it. I just want to show you the headline and then you could fill in the blank in your own mind because it speaks for itself. So the Wall Street Journal bureau chief says the following. The Ayn Rand Institute received a PPP loan of between $350,000 and $1 million. Now, most of my audience knows who Ayn Rand is. For those who don't, let me tell you. She's a very, very well-known writer, famous writer, and her whole thing is anarcho-capitalism, or, what's currently understood in the U.S. context as libertarianism.
Okay, so here's another thing. I get a lot of grief for being a moderately left-wing libertarian. But a lot of libertarians don't understand that it's really the U.S. and Canada where libertarians are right-wing on economics. The origins of libertarian is left-wing anarchism. And then from there, it was just, you got libertarians who are democratic socialists, so there's a lot of libertarian ideology that's out there. There's a lot of flavors to libertarianism. And my whole thing is we all agree on the social aspect of it. Get government out of our bedrooms and out of our pockets as much as possible, yes. But then we have that disagreement when it comes to what is the definition of economic freedom. Now, not to strawman right-wing libertarians on the right-wing economics of it, I think their heart's in the right place. I was a laissez-faire libertarian up until a few months ago, and I understood where they were coming from. And my whole thing is, when it comes to the rich, when it comes to corporations, right, they have all this wealth, all this money. Meanwhile, we have inequality when it comes to income. I think it was 40% of the revenue generated was from the 1%. You got 40 million people living in poverty. You got over 500,000 people homeless. 8 out of 10 Americans living a paycheck. Half of us making 30 grand or less. People can't afford college. People can't afford medical bills. So my idea of economic freedom is not having to worry about money as much. You having the time and not having to worry about finances as much. I'm not saying, end currency. I'm not saying people shouldn't have to work to have a good career or a good life. People should work. I'm not saying just give people handouts. What I am saying is give people the basic necessities, a basic standard of living, so that they're not struggling. If we had family paid leave, if we had universal daycare, if we had free college, in theory I'm for Medicare for all, but I think, it's unsustainable at some point. But I think we should have provisions in healthcare where, at least emergency room care is free. Mental and physically disabled people get free health care. Seniors are already covered with, Medicare. But these are the things that could help our country grow and prosper. Like, if everybody had the same education that rich people's kids had, that would be amazing. So, when it comes to economic freedom, there's disagreements on what is socioeconomic freedom. And my whole thing is like, listen, man, if somebody makes $17 billion and you take $10 billion from that person, they're still going to be loaded. They're going to still live a life that people can only, 99% of the world can only dream of. So why? If it's going to get people off the street, if it's going to get people education, free college costs $60 billion annually. Just $60 billion. Guess what our military budget is? $717 billion. It wouldn't take much. All we have to do is reallocate the funds, cut spending. You know, there's over a dozen ways we can pay for this. And it's incredible to me that this is even a debate. Like, we could reverse the Trump and Bush tax cuts. We could cut the military spending by 60%, giving us $430 billion to spend. We end all the wars, and then we implement a 7.5% employer payroll tax, exempting the first $2 million to save small businesses. That tax would be affordable because it would exempt small businesses. So that's what gets me. But let's keep going.
I've read a bunch of her stuff, and man, she was extreme. There were some essays she wrote where she said, no, we do need some level of government, and the government should be the court system. Like, because we need to have a place where we go to settle disputes. And so every country needs a court system. But that's pretty much it. Like, that's what the government should just do, the court system, and that's it. Then there were other essays she wrote where she was like, even the court system should be privatized, and it should be voluntary donations for a court system. Now, of course, in typical Ayn Rand fashion, she ignores like the consequences that paint her views in a negative respect. So, if you have voluntary donations for a court system, who's going to donate to that court system to keep it running? The people with all the money. The very, very rich people. So in a situation where the very, very rich people are the reasons why the courts are functioning, do you think that those courts are going to be objective and maybe hear out somebody who was screwed over by one of those billionaires, or will they side with the people who are giving them the money and keeping them running? They're always going to side with the billionaires, or the overwhelming majority of the time side with the billionaires. So like she lives in this fantasy world where it's like everything's theory. In theory, X, Y, and Z should happen. Okay, but in practice, it doesn't. In practice, anarcho-capitalism is substituting one form of tyranny, government tyranny, with private corporate tyrannies. But in her mind, those don't count, because it's voluntary. It's voluntary for you to go
Just because tyranny is voluntary doesn't mean it's okay.
work for the corporation. For you to sell your labor on the marketplace and have somebody lord over you and tell you what to do. Hey, you chose that.
It's literally feudalism with Bitcoin. Yes, I did steal that from a left-wing libertarian. I just forget the video I stole it from. But it's anarcho-capitalism. Here's my thing. And not just them, minarchists, you know, all the libertarians who are completely against regulations, completely against the government stepping in for the general welfare of people. Why is market failures being ignored? Why are the statistics of student loan debt, medical bills, all the statistics I just laid out for you earlier, why is that being ignored by them? Like I said, their heart is in the right place. Don't get me wrong. But it's just theory. Everything is based on theory with them. And then when you bring up we've practiced these things in the real world. They have not worked. So when you see market failures, when you see people struggling with to go to college, with medical bills, why are you just ignoring that? Like, that's literally what they're doing. They're just ignoring that. I just don't get it. It flabbergasts it flabbergasts me because we've tried laissez-faire capitalism in this country for 145 years. And FDR had to step in. Look at any world. Look at any country. Look at any developed nation. And you tell me, how many of those people are volunteering their money, and everything is being funded by charity and volunteer work? That doesn't happen. It's not happening.
You chose that. So that kind of tyranny doesn't count. So, but, I mean, it's a strong stance against government spending. It's the ultimate small government position. Okay, so why the hell are you taking a PPP loan? A government loan between $350,000 and $1 million. Now, people made the argument against Ayn Rand and against, I think Ron Paul, Ron Paul accepts Social Security money. Ayn Rand lived off some government money towards the end of her life. So, hypocrites. Now, the response that libertarians have to that is, yeah, but they did pay into that their entire lives through Social Security, through the social safety net. So, they're just getting back what they already paid in. So, they're not really hypocrites. And they weren't given a choice to opt in or out to Social Security. So, is it really, are you really burning them? No, they're just automatically as part of Social Security. So, you didn't get them. They're not hypocrites. A PPP loan, you have to apply for. It is categorically different than the Social Security one. So they're actively choosing to get a government loan as their entire intellectual philosophy is arguing against stuff that the government does. They don't think the government should have the ability to do this kind of stuff. They want to rein it in. But then they go and apply for the loan. Beyond hypocritical, incredibly stupid, but right on brand. Because, I don't think there really are too many actual ideologues out there. They're just opportunists. These are people trying to get ahead like anybody else, taking any advantage they possibly can, government or not. And there is no real principled movement here. I'm not saying all libertarians are like this, because they're not. There are plenty of libertarians who are principled. But it sure as hell is not the people at the Ayn Rand Institute who applied for a government loan so they can continue bashing government loans.
I was a laissez-faire capitalist for 4 years. And for 4 years, I had no concept of economics, and I never even bothered to study any type of economics, just a little bit, enough to get me by. Because in my mind, it was just charity will fix it, volunteering will fix it. But then I started looking at the failures of laissez-faire capitalism. And I could no longer make excuses for these horrible statistics that I brought up. The Libertarian Party would get a lot more votes if they were a little bit more pragmatic. I love Joe. I will probably be voting for her, but at this point with me, I win some and I lose some. No matter what party, I end up losing some and I end up winning some. Some of the things I want are going to be implemented, and some of the things I really don't want are going to be implemented. So and that's why I'm probably not going to follow the general election, because you got Biden, you got Trump, you got Joe. I'm just really hoping we get more than 3.3%, because last election we got in 2016 we got 3.3% of the votes. So if we go about it the right way, then we'll be great. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. It was my first election year in 2016, so this will be my second election year. So if things go good, then great. If things go bad, then I don't know. I'm gonna have to lose my hope on the LP. I'm leaving the party this year anyways, so it don't matter. But I'm always gonna keep my always keep my updates on the LP and see how they're doing. But yeah, I love this video. I saw this video today and I was just like, wow, yeah, he was totally spot on. But I just, we gotta get it together, guys. Peace, love, and liberty. I'll see you next video.